Hey, all, Brad here with another quick video. On the bench today, I've got a Stargate board set minus the soundboard. So I've got the metal mounting plate, the MPU, ROM board, and IO board. A local friend of mine, Mitch, brought this over to the house, and it's actually for another friend I know, Andy. Apparently, those two were, doing some stuff, and Mitch ended up with the board because he was coming over to get something from me anyway. So I've got this wrapped up. This is one of the last customer jobs in my queue. I'm taking a month or two off to try to get some cabinet work done coming up here and kind of need to get the shop reorganized and stuff, over the course of the winter and into spring. Just kind of carried over. And As I mentioned in the other video, like I've got some cabinets that are pretty close, just the wood cabinets. I need a little adhesive on them, some paint work, that sort of thing. And I really don't do that kind of stuff in the house, with the chemicals and all that. So when the weather gets nice like this, I like to get out in the garage and get that stuff done, bring them down here in the shop, and then I can work on, getting all the boards and monitors and everything back in the cooler months. So the goal is to get 3 cabinets done. I've got a turkey shoot cabinet, an original splat, and then I've got a Cinestar cab that I am converting to Williams 1942. I have all the art and all the boards and everything else, so it's just a matter of spending the time. I just, the volume of customer work with the time allotted, I just kind of had to turn it off a bit so I can get caught up. So anyway, enough on that. Let me go over what we did here. Again, I wasn't really told what the symptoms were, and again, I usually don't care. I just make sure they're working right when they leave the shop. So I got this in, just tore right into it, started doing my usual stuff, changing headers, caps, all that business, and then I have a working set on the bench, one of mine, and then I just swap one board at a time as I go through them, make sure it's solid, and then move to the next one. So it's usually a fairly quick process. I've done it many, many, many times. So let me switch over to the bench cam and we'll go over everything. Okay, so as you can see here, I mentioned before I do return all the customers' old parts. Sometimes I've got some people I do a lot of work for. They're like, just keep them. Ribbon cables are in here, all the Molex headers, the old ones, all the electrolytic caps, any failed components, all that kind of stuff is in here. Moving back to the boards, here's the Stargate ROM board, and whoops, sorry about the camera work here. I have a cable hanging on. Um, all new Molex headers, all 3 positions. We've got a nice new Nichicon filter cap. A little bit. The original is 100 microfarad. I put 150s on here. They have very low ESR, so it gives you a little more filtering. One of the other reasons I did it because they're dimensionally exactly the same as the original caps, which I kind of like. If you get one that's 100 microfarad with the same voltage rating, they're typically much smaller now because they're much better at manufacturing these things than they were. Pulled all the socketed chips, straight and clean the legs, have a little thin coat of deoxide on them. Um, New ribbon cable, all 3M parts. I make these up in house. I think I've got some photos or maybe a video on my 3M ribbon cable press and my cutter and all that stuff. How I make these. If I don't, I'm gonna take a look. Maybe I'll make a video. I think people may be interested in that. IO board. It's got new two 10-pin Molex headers on it with the square pins. We've got new ribbon that I make up, and again the same filter cap over here. Back to the MPU, new Molex headers, all 3 positions. We've got new filter caps on it as well, same ones, the 150s. I do put a new 22 microfarad tantalum cap on here. Original one was a aluminum electrolytic. And this is used for the soft start on these boards. So I've gone over this before, but I'll kind of explain it again. So when you first apply power, um, by default, these transistors have the CPU. There's a reset pin on 37 that keeps low, so the CPU is not executing instructions or running essentially, and it starts off in that mode in reset. So this capacitor being 22 microfarads, and then there's a resistor in series with it, controls it, I'll say, charging up to full capacity until it reaches the 5 volts. And so that ratio with the resistor and capacitor, they call that RC timing circuit. For this thing is about a half a second, something like that. I've got the exact numbers, but what it does is it allows all of the chips on the board to get nice and stable with the 5 volts before the CPU starts trying to execute instructions. So um, get that changed out. The other thing on here that I change is this Zener diode over here. So there's two of them. There's ZR1 and ZR2. ZR1 monitors the 12 volt side and the regulated 12 volts, or the unregulated 12 volts actually. And then ZR2 here monitors the 5 volt circuit. And the value for this that Williams used, and I'm not sure why, was 3.9 volts. And as most people probably know, the TTL logic, transistor logic chips, they're rated essentially 4.7 is the threshold on the bottom end that they are rated to operate at. And I think they'll go up to like 5.2. You know, you need to be in that window, but for whatever reason, they used a 3.9 volt here. So I swapped those out, put in a 4.7, and what that does is really keeps the CMOS from getting corrupted, because when those chips start operating, you know, below 4.7, all kinds of craziness is going on in these buses, and what ends up happening is, you know, somehow just randomly the right enable gets triggered, and then garbage data is written into the CMOS. Now, it's being written probably into the RAM and other areas, but this is the only place that it'll persist and you'll see it on the next boot. So with that 4.7 over here, it keeps the board locked down anything below that value. So moving across the board. Also, this is a Rev B board, and there were some factory bodge wires put on these, and I have a little circuit that I've designed with a single gate of a 7404 inverter that I use on the back of this IC here that gets rid of all that bodge. So I think there's a photo in the album of it. This did have a AA battery holder, 3 of them. Took that off. I have a nice CR2450 holder on here with a brand new battery. Again, these are lithium, and they, you don't have to worry about off-gassing hydrogen or any alkali damage to the board. This board did have some corrosion here. You can see a little off-gassing on some of these decoupling caps here, but it cleaned up real nice. I also pulled the decoders and the CPU, cleaned, straightened the legs there, and everything on it's real solid. So let's go ahead and power it up and do a little gameplay and go through some diagnostics and get this video wrapped up. Give me a sec here to get resituated. We'll switch over. Okay. Got a little remote control on the bench here. I do run on my test bench. I run a Williams transformer and a linear power supply, so it's exactly what the game would see in the cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and power it up. And that's our rug or carpet pattern. And again, that's just the board running a program, if you will, that tests the RAM. And when it writes those random values out to the RAM is shared. And so anything that gets written to the RAM gets rendered out to the screen. So that rug pattern that you see really is just a side effect of the RAM test that you're being able to visualize. So, and you can see she booted straight into attract mode, which is great. That tells us the battery and the CMOS is doing everything it's supposed to do. It's, persisting all the settings and high scores and such. So I did mention that there was no soundboard sent over. I have one on my bench where I can just swap in a ROM real quick for Stargate or any of the games. Now, Defender and Stargate both used a 2K ROM, 2716, where the later games, Jaws, Robotron, all that, use the 2532. But so the soundboard I keep on my bench for testing, I've just doubled the image size for Stargate and Defender, so they use the 2532. So it's just a quick ROM swap for me, and I can run this soundboard on my bench with any game. So I did hook it up here, just makes maybe the demonstration here a little cooler, I guess. So I'll coin it up. Let's start. Keep in mind, playing with this remote is a little tricky for me. What is this? Doing some smart bombs here. So you can see it's playing real good. It has run on the bench overnight, 24 hours probably by the time I get everything situated here. So let me drop into diagnostics, and we're going to hear that sound until we get to the sound test. No RAM errors, CMOS is good. There's a sound. We'll loop through these. After, as I think I mentioned in another video, so there's 6 I/O lines that come off the ROM board that drive or command the soundboard what to play. The soundboard is its own little computer in of itself, and so ultimately you can test all the digital inputs just by running the 5 different tests on this board. So switch test. So again, I've got the little PlayStation controller with a board I built with a microcontroller, and I can load different configurations that I've made for Stargate or whatever game. So I've got that loaded. So you can see here there's up, down, we've got thrust, R1 is fire, and we've got X is reverse, hyperspace is square, smart bomb is triangle, and Inviso is the circle, and then my start button is player 1 start, and then the select is left coin here, so I can coin it up. So everything's working. I actually, when I first rebuild the I/O board, I put it on my test board set where I'm running Splat. So I actually test all 18, which is the maximum this particular board can take for inputs. So this board is used across Stargate, Joust, Robotron, Bubbles. Splat uses this board, obviously. So Splat was the only one that used all 18 potential inputs. So I always test these with Splat. I wrote a little routine where I just hit the X button on this controller and it goes through and fires one after the other, all 18 of them, and then it holds them there, and then I can clear it and retest it. I've probably shown that in another video at some point. So um, color RAM test, we'll let this run. So you'll see 3 intensities of red here. You'll see it kind of brighten up. This is the color RAM area, and then you'll get 3 intensities of green. And then we'll switch to blue, and you'll get 2 intensities. So, these are 8-bit systems, so they had 8 bits to deal with and 3 colors. So red got 3, green got 3, and blue got the 2 remaining ones for a total of 8. So, and then after that, we get the grid lines here where you can use this to set convergence on your monitor and align everything real good. Most guys now are using the little TPGs, the handheld test pattern generators, or other devices to set this. But, sometimes you can still use the game boards. And then we get a solid red, green, and blue. And this is great for testing individual guns on your electron guns on your CRT. And then red, green, blue. And then we get color bars here. And then bookkeeping data. And I mentioned this before, but this screen not only can be accessed going through this menu, but there's a secret little button down in the bottom coin vault. On the front of the cabinets, you've got the coin door where the coins go in. In the bottom, there's the lock box with the coin vault. An operator may have had them keyed differently. So, the 16-year-old kid or 18-year-old kid working at the arcade, he could go in and clear jams or put a free credit if someone, lost their quarter or whatever. But that individual didn't have access to the actual money down in the bottom in the vault. So when the operator would come in to clear out that coins, they would open it, they could reach in, there was a little button in there they could hit and would bring up this data so they could see that the number of coins on the screen here matched what was actually in the box, that somebody wasn't skimming or stealing money from them. So it was kind of slick. And then the next screen here is where you get into your settings, your game adjustments. And if I come down, you go to more adjustments, and you've got more on this screen where you can reset factory settings. You can, make all kinds of different values. You can enable free play, and you can put a track message in there, Brad's Arcade or whatever you want. And you can also default set a high score name as well. And then we come back to a track mode. So with that, we're going to wrap this video up. I'm probably going to leave it running on the bench here until either Mitch or Andy comes pick it up, or we, figure out how we're going to get it back to them. But came out real good. No big smoking gun. We did have one bad DRAM on here, 4116, that was kind of sketchy. The legs were a little corroded on, so I just swapped that out. But other than that, there was really no smoking gun. Usually on these boards, a lot of times I think it's the ribbon cable that probably was the root cause on the ROM board for a lot of issues. And again, unless I go through and really test and wiggle and all that stuff ahead of time, I don't find that or see that. And again, not super concerned with what the original problem was. My focus is on making sure that the boards are solid and reliable when they leave my shop. So with that, thanks for watching the video, and we'll catch you here on the next one.